Hello and welcome to this video where we'll go into setting up DLT from scratch. So we will set it up in a Python virtual environment and then installing DLT and using DLT to extract and load CSV data. We'll load CSV data into a database. The database we choose is DuckDB because this is very simple. You can just load it into DuckDB. And later on, you can change the destination to another database if you need. For example, you can load it to Snowflake. But starting with DuckDB, it's quite simple and we can explore our data immediately. So that is the idea. So let's go on to the browser first to see which data we're going to pick. So I'm here in my browser and in Kaggle. We have this data set here, Netflix original films and IMDb scores. So the idea is that we will load this one into DuckDB using DLT. And by using DLT, we have a lot of advantages. For example, you could use it for incremental loading and you could add transformations. Also, the very neat thing is that you could change the code very little so that it loads to different destinations. That is very beautiful. So starting here, if you don't have an account, create an account. Then you just download this CSV file. So I've done this, so I will move on to Visual Studio Code. I create a data folder where I put this Netflix originals.csv into it. And then one other important thing to start with is that if you're working with GitHub repo, you should have these extra lines here, one for database. So then you have DB, you have here for DLT, you have secrets.toml. Actually, you could also add .dlt because this is not needed for everyone to know. And secrets.toml and also config.toml is inside there. So these are configurations for you, and the secrets you have the API keys and other things that are very important not to share with others. So these are here, and then for the database for DuckDB you should these. Actually, why did I have two here? Remove that one. And we have .val. All is a head log for DB. So these are just things you don't want to share, but you could share the database files like DB and DB if they are not that large. However, since it's possible that we will load a lot of data, this can become very large, so then don't share it. And also if there's data you don't want to share. And here we have the dbeaver. Also, if you're using dbeaver for connecting DuckDB, which is a graphical user interface and IDE for working with different database engines, and DuckDB is one of them you can work with. And then if you have Mac, add the .ds store as well. And then the rest of the git ignore is basically just the standard one for Python. Okay, so save this one and I will have a new terminal. I'll increase the size a little bit so that you can see what I'm writing. So starting with a new virtual environment, uvvnv, and then we activate it, source.pen bin activate. And now we have to install some things. uv pip install. I will need to have pandas. I will need to have, let's see, DLT. Actually, I need DLT and DuckDB, so I'll write it like this. And it needs to be in quotes. I install this one. I think this should be enough, but in case it's not, we'll note this, and then we'll install when we need. Let's set up our DLT script. So for doing that, we'll just create a pipeline now, and we have this Python script, and just import pandas as PD, and we'll import DLT. And we'll also need some more things. We'll need to have from flib import. Okay, so starting now, we will create our first resource. And a resource, it's used for extracting data from source. And in this case, it's a local CSV file. And if you have, for example, Excel as a source, then each tabs are represented as a resource. So that you have several resources grouped together in a source. And it's from the resource that it will yield data. So yielding means that it creates a generator so that it can return whenever you call for it. So when you call for the function and the generator, it will return. And what you can do with this is that you can iterate over it so that you can loop over it, and then it will yield each item. So just follow this structure and you can see it as a return, but in reality it makes it into a generator which can return items one by one. And this is important because it's used so that it can stream data as well. So here we'll do a dlt.resource. So we make it into resource, and then you choose what type of right disposition it should have. This means that should we append the data, should we replace the data, or should we incrementally load the data? So I will choose append. So this means that if we run it several times, we'll append the rows. And this one is a decorator, so we will decorate a function. When we decorate a function, it means that the function will get another functionality. And the functionality it gets is that it becomes a DLT resource object. So let's do that. So def load CSV resource. And I will have a file path, and the file path a string. And then I will just add keyword arguments here. So df equals to pd.read CSV. So we read the CSV and we put in the file path to read it. And then we will add the quarks so that we can add some options to pandas. So then we do yield df. So we have this load CSV resource. So let's do if dunder name equals to dunder main, and then just run this one. So print load CSV resource. Actually, I should place it into data. So data equals to this. And in order for me to load it, I need to have a path to it, right? I need to have path to this Netflix originals. So let's do that. CSV path equals to dunder file. So we are in this folder slash data. We're inside data folder slash this name here, Netflix originals. And then I will place in CSV path here, and I will just print the data. And I run this one. And you can see that it says, if you want to see the data items in resource, you must iterate it or convert to list. Okay, so let's do that. So let's do list of this one, because it's a generator, right? So it will yield it whenever we iterate over it. So I run this one again, and now we see there's an error. And the error is that here we see load CSV resource caused an exception, UTF-8 codec can't code byte, blah, blah, blah. So then we just add another encoding, and the encoding we add is Latin 1. So this one goes into pd.read CSV. We add Latin 1 so that it can read these special characters. Okay, I run it again. And you can see this is a list of data frames. So it works. We have the data, or we read it in and using pandas. So let's just yield this data frame, and we will load it into DuckDB. So I will remove the print. And what we need to do is import OS. I will change this path here. Instead of CSV path, I will have work. Let's see, I will have another one actually. So I'll copy this one, and I will have working directory. And working directory will remove everything here. And then for CSV path, I will have from working directory and going down. Working directory down like this. I want to do something else. Change dir into working directory. And the reason for this is that maybe I place this script somewhere else. And what we need is that I need to have this one in the same like sibling to a folder called .dlt whenever we need .dlt for secrets. So if we have a .dlt like this, then this one is sibling to this load CSV pipeline. And since I find the working directory, .dlt is in it. And that's the idea, because inside .dlt, I will have secrets.toml, where I will add my secrets. I will have config.toml, where I will add my configs. But for now, we don't need this. So that's why I use this os.changedir, because when you're running this script, when you click the run button, it's always picking where you are in the terminal. So if I would be in somewhere else and I ran this script, then I'm in that place. So what I do is that I change the directory so that I'm always aware this file is, so that where this Python script is. Okay, I hope that made sense. So we have CSV path, we have data. And now let's load it. So what we need to do is pipeline equals to dlt.pipeline. So here we will do the loading. So pipeline name equals to movies, and destinations. So here you specify where you want to place your database. For example, I want to place it into the data folder. Then I do like this, DLT, destinations, DB, and I will add to my data folder. So I will do working directory /data / what the DuckDB file should be called. So what do I want it to be called? I would want it to be called movies.duck. So this ensures that it goes into working directory is here, and I will go into data folder, and I will go into a database file called movies.duckdb. So this is my pipeline. Or actually, I can call it, pipeline. So to run it, you do this load info equals to pipeline.run. And what do I want to run? I will run with this data here. So data, because the data is this dlt.resource, right? So we run with the data, and then we put in what the table name should be. Remember that we have dataset name. I should have a data set name equals to staging. So this is where I will place my data. So staging layer is the first layer, is where my data will come in when I load it. So this is the schema. And inside the schema, I will have a table called Netflix. So then I will just print load info to see what happens. So now I'll run this file, click the run button, and there's an error. It says that we need to install this PyArrow. So pip install DLT Parquet. So let's do that. UV pip install, let's see, DLT Parquet, like this. And I run this again. Now it seems to work. Oh no, it was an error again. Since it says database name must be a string, then perhaps I could just do like this. Make it into an F string. Yes, it worked. So it cannot have, because it was a, what was called, it was a path object before, pathlib object. So now we have this movies.duckdb. So let's check it out. So cd data, and here we'll go into movies.duckdb. So duckdb-ui movies.duckdb. And note here that this started up a DuckDB session here, and there's a UI that is started in this localhost. So this UI is super new. It just came out a few weeks ago. This is a super good way to explore your data. Another great way is to just use dbeaver, because in that way you have all your scripts, your SQL scripts could be version controlled as well. However, these notebooks that I will show you soon in the local UI, if you want to version control them, you can just copy out the code into SQL scripts. We don't have a way to export them yet. So this is the UI. And here, let's create a new notebook. So here are all my notebooks that I have used for exploring. So it's in a local database called ui.db inside of the DuckDB folder where you've installed it. So let's open a new notebook, and I will call it movies from DLT. Add a new cell. And here you can see which database it's connected to. It's connected to movies. You can see that there are some schemas. Here, the first four are from DuckDB UI, so don't care for them. Instead, here you have 4 schemas for movies. So this is the movies database. And here you have staging, all of them, because this is the dataset name that we chose. And here you can see there are a few DLT loads, DLT pipeline state, DLT version. And then there's Netflix, which is the table that we've chosen when we did pipeline.run. So there's where our data is. The other ones are for storing state and for in case you want to do incremental loading so that you don't need to load everything at once, just continue loading new things. So this is super good. So let's explore Netflix. Yeah, it's in the staging schema. So staging.netflix. And you can see here is the data. And also it's possible to explore it here. There's some summary statistics you can look at. Genre, you can see here, most of them are documentary, some of them are drama and comedy, etc. And here basically just new cells, and you can do from staging.netflix, select whichever you want. For example, you could do runtime, you could do average of runtime, for example. Yeah, and you can see it here. your SQL skills or your DB skills can work here to do whatever you want. And let's go back to Visual Studio Code. So basically here you see the table name is Netflix and the dataset name is staging. So all the data comes into the staging schema, and in the schema there's a lot of tables that you can create. And just to look into here, now I'm in the UI again. I will check out the other ones just for fun. So you could check out DLT state, for example, this one. So from DLT staging.dlt date, let's see what we have here. Yeah, so there's created at this date and some ID so that it can keep track of the state where you are. Let's check other things. Staging, from staging underscore DLT loads. And here you can see it has been loaded twice. Why is that? Oh, okay. I ran it twice. I ran it first without making it a string and with the path object. And then I ran it again when I added it into string. That is why we have 2 in each here, actually. We can actually find that here. Within the title, you can see there's 2 of each of them because I used append. So let's change that for fun. Can change the right disposition to replace instead. And I will run this one. Close the database connection. On it. And now I have replaced the data. So let's go back to DuckDB. Let's see. DuckDB movies.duckdb. Okay, so if I do from staging.netflix title, and you can see it's 1 here. Great. So let's continue to look here. DLT loads. Now you can see there's 3 loads. So how is that? I did 2 loads before and now I did 1 more load and now I did replace. This still makes sense. And it's possible to do this because it keeps tracks of its state with pipeline state. And here you can see the date when it's inserted. So you can see it's possible to track whatever happens to your data. So if you're loading new things, you know when it has been loaded. And it's easier to error handle also. So from staging dot, what do we have more? DLT version. Let's see what we get. Okay, version 2, version 3. So it changed the versions. Yeah, exactly. So this is the newest one, 15.10. Yeah, the time it's 15.10, yeah, 17.12. Yeah, it depends on the time zone where I am. With this, you have seen me load data from DLT. So we've done extract load from a pandas data frame into DuckDB so that you can explore the data. And this is super good so that if you want to load it into somewhere else, for example, Snowflake, then you just change the destination to Snowflake. And you also add some credentials to connect to Snowflake. So thank you for watching this video and see you in the next one. Bye.